Coach Shea, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach interview. Appreciate you taking the time. As I mentioned to you, you are the most handsomely dressed coach that has been on all things Division III soccer, which I need to learn from you.
It's all smoke and mirrors. Just
Yeah. You're in shorts underneath. I totally get it. That's fine. Do appreciate it. And I will say, first of all, you're a rookie. You've never been on the channel before. But also, it dawned on me this morning that you are the first Massachusetts State Collegiate Athletic Conference coach that has been on the channel. And not for not trying, but you're the first. So, welcome.
Great to be here. Thank you. Happy to represent the MASCAC a little bit.
Nice. All right, Coach, usually with rookies, I ask the sort of opening question. Can you just talk a little bit about your soccer journey? How did you end up at Westfield State?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. I grew up in locker rooms. I grew up on the soccer field. My father was a boys varsity high school coach at Cathedral High School out of Springfield, Massachusetts for 33 years, and I grew up in locker rooms with him. And I was always fascinated by the game and the hoorah of the locker room and the camaraderie of teams. And I spent a lot of time in locker rooms as a little boy with him, and eventually went on to play with him at Cathedral, and had a good high school career, and made my way to 2 years at Merrimack College, and then 2 years at Westfield State. Had a run in the USL with the Western Mass Pioneers.
Nice.
And then at 28. I decided I was tired of getting kicked and moved into the coaching ranks. And I'm 49 now, and I've had a really, really blessed career so far. I've been at several different universities: Bay Path University, Mount Holyoke College, UMass Amherst, Elms College, the Revolution Academy for 5 years. And then in the last 4 years here at Westfield State with the men's program. So I've been surrounded by some great mentors and wonderful coaches and wonderful teammates, and have really feel very, very fortunate to be able to work in this profession and be surrounded by some pretty incredible people.
This one just popped in my head because I'm so knee deep in this nonsense, I can't help it. So you mentioned you were at the New England Revolution Academy for a few years. Can you? And I get this is not college soccer, but could you just talk? Can you? What's your impressions of sort of MLS academies based on your experience? Is the talent getting better? That sort of thing. So totally random. I apologize, but
yeah, no. Well, it ties a lot into the recruiting piece. In a perfect world, I'd look at only ECNL players and MLS Next players. Typically they're tend to be the stronger of the bunch in terms of the club world and the academy world, and there's it's for better or worse. There's pros and cons. Our country is continuing to evolve, and the soccer landscape at the academy and youth level continues to evolve and change and morph. And the best news is that there's lots of wonderful opportunities for players to grow and develop. There's a lot of really good-hearted people and good-hearted clubs that are trying to develop players to be able to play at the next level. And I talk to a lot of club coaches on a daily and weekly basis, and their hearts are all in the right place. And players are hungry to develop and be the best version of themselves, and ultimately move on and play at the college ranks. And what that looks like for them is different for everybody. But there's a lot of wonderful options for college coaches at all divisions to consider in terms of bringing players in. And college soccer is really competitive. It's very, very competitive. Club players and high school players aren't always aware of the level that these teams and these players play at. And so there's a real opportunity for players to prepare and to develop at the youth and club and academy levels. And there's lots of players for us to look at, which is really encouraging and fun and exciting.
Let's talk a little bit about the MASCAC. Can you just talk about the conference? Like I said, you're my first, so I'm exploring a lot of this, and obviously I recognize the teams, but yeah, could you just talk about the conference competitiveness and some of the challenges you face?
Sure. Westfield State, obviously university, we're in it. Salem State, Bridgewater State, Fitchburg State, Framingham State, Massachusetts Maritime, MCLA, Mass College of Liberal Arts. Anna Maria just joined out of the GNAC. And we're surrounded by a lot of other really strong conferences. The NESCAC, a lot of NESCAC teams around here, the NUMAC teams, Conference of New England, the GNAC teams. So we're located here in New England, primarily out of Massachusetts and the New England area. A lot of really strong non-conference opponents as options for us to play and to develop. And then the MASCAC is competitive. It's a tough conference. It's a physical conference. It's a blue-collar conference. They're state universities. And they're hidden gems. They don't cost a lot to go to because they have some funding from the federal government and the state of Massachusetts. They're beautiful universities with really competitive programs and a lot of resources. Our facilities are top-notch. Price point's really low. And those are all wonderful recruiting tools.
Yeah.
We're the defending champs out of the MASCAC. We went to the national tournament last year, and so we're excited about our team, and we're going to be tough to beat. We brought in some really, really strong players this year, and we're looking forward to seeing how we do this year.
All right, from a soccer perspective, I was looking. I'll say 3 years ago, knowing that it's 4 years, so I give you the first year. The year three, 3 years ago, you won a total of 3 games, then 7 games. Last year, you went 9, 7, and 5, I think it was, and you won the NASCAC tournament and went to the NCAA's. I mean, the trajectory is pretty clear, right? Like you're growing as you're going, right? And I think that's a really positive. Can I ask what do you think that's due to? Like you're at the helm. Are you recruiting different types of players? Is there something about Westfield that is a natural attraction for players that? I'm just curious about that.
Sure. Year one, I inherited what I inherited. We pulled the weeds a little bit, cleaned house a little bit, tried to change the culture and the standards and the expectations. Year two, we started to bring in some the different breed of player. Knew we needed to get better, and any way you look at it, you need better players to do that. And then we put a lot of things in place in terms of the comprehensiveness of our program. We do a lot of sports psychology work in the classroom, which is my doctorate's in sports psychology. That's my background. We do some nutrition stuff. We implemented a strength and conditioning and a lifting program. And we worked hard to really change the culture and explain to the players that if you want to be good at the college level and compete at the college level, these are some of the things that we need to do on a year-round basis within the parameters of the rules of the NCAA, obviously, in terms of non-traditional schedule and when I can engage with the players. But we've built a pretty comprehensive program, and we've elevated the standards and worked hard to bring in some really, really strong players. And that's a grind. It's hard to bring in players. Recruiting is a grind, but it's a big piece of the puzzle that I do enjoy. And like you and I talked about earlier, there's worse jobs to have than going out and recruiting and watching games and players.
Watching games. Like what? How
Had a
terrible
lot,
is that?
had a lot of much worse jobs. So I'm grateful to be able to do it. And there's an opportunity to really impact lives. You bring in a player to a university and a college program, and that changes the trajectory of their life and opens up some doors for them, and that's pretty good stuff, And
Yeah.
so in short, the comprehensiveness of our program evolves from year to year. Our standards go up a little bit more each year. We're trying to bring in better. I try to recruit players that are better than my best player. That's my recruiting mantra. Find players that are better than my current best guy. And that's how we bring in more talent. And then it's my job and my staff's job to put a program together that is comprehensive enough to keep them engaged and to keep us on a winning trajectory. And that's what we're trying to do.
Okay. When you came on board, I ask this of all new coaches. I'm particularly interested in the kind of like the builder guys. They're brought on and they sort of do what you do. Like hey, we got to change things. If we want to be competitive, this is what we need to do. And I always ask, like, were you brought on with that purpose? When you were hired, did they say, hey, we really want you to take the program from here to there, and we're giving you or was it something different, or was it always just sort of the expectation that if you're going to get hired, that's what's going to be expected of you?
Yeah, I think any athletic director, when they make a change, ultimately it's they want the program to go in a different direction, and that is a subjective interpretation in terms of, well, what does that look like, right? Every athletic director is a little different. But I think every athletic director at the high school level and collegiate level, ultimately they want really competitive programs. It doesn't necessarily mean championships every year, but they want a program that players and alumni and students and faculty and staff feel proud about. There was never any pressure on me to win a championship. That comes from my own inner competitive drive and my own desire to
Win.
to make, I'm an alum of this program, and so my parents went here, and my uncle went here, and my brother and sister both attended Westfield State. It's a big part of my family, and I'm building this program because I'm a competitor, and I'm an alum, and I want our alums and I want our current players to feel really good about the trajectory of the program. So we're working hard and trying to get a little bit better every day.
Yeah. Can I ask you, you said you recruit, like you have this, you try to recruit players who are better than your best player. Like what does your ideal player look like? Is it somebody who is always on the ball, makes the perfect pass, or who outworks the next guy? Or do you have such a profile?
Yeah, tough question, loaded question. Sure.
I only ask the loaded, tough questions.
That's
why it's a hot seat.
This is you're not fooling around. Finding players who can compete at the college level is and who can impact the college soccer game is hard. There's a lot of really good players and a lot of good teams we face. It changes a little from year to year, but ultimately, and I think most coaches will say the same thing. They're looking for a coachable player. They're looking for an athletic player. They're looking for a workhorse. I need guys who can run and are fit and are strong. Because it's a long game and it's a brutal season and it's a long season, and I need guys who are committed to keeping their bodies fit and committed to recovery and committed to off-season training, and guys who live and breathe the sport and really want to compete at this level. And and obviously technical proficiency. We need guys who are comfortable, who can trap and pass a soccer ball and can go the ball 40, 50 yards without giving it a lot of thought, because if that piece is in place, then we can really go to work and develop some comprehensive tactics and look at our tactical approach, because we're not thinking about, well, can we trap and pass? That's a given. And so we need to find technically proficient players who have some vision and have an understanding of the game and who are willing to fight and work and run. And I've got a whole bunch of those guys, and it's a really exciting prospect to be coaching this group, particularly this year.
Can I ask, in the recruiting standpoint, I mean, it's a loaded question, so I get it's probably not an easy answer, but like, do you see yourself at I'll just say from a recruiting perspective, almost like at a competitive disadvantage to a private school? And I say that I'm not suggesting private school Tufts or Amherst, right, which are elite academic institutions, right, in their own right. I'm just saying an equivalent private school, which you have a lot of up there. Do you consider yourself a little bit at a disadvantage or no?
Well, it's all how you look at it. We played Tufts in the first round of the NCAAs when we were up 1-0 with 20 minutes to go.
Yeah.
We lost the game 2-1. We took a little 4-minute nap, and a good team will punish you, and they did.
Yeah.
They scored 2 goals in 4 minutes, and
Yeah.
that's what happened. But we can
Door
play.
was open, man. You open that door, there's some people
Yeah.
are going to just barrel through, right?
Well, good teams will do that.
Yeah,
That's but we're right there. We're right there. We can compete. I think with anyone in the country, we're in the ballpark. And 3, 4, 5 years ago, we really weren't. So again, we've had to recruit better players and increase the comprehensiveness of our program and engage these really good players to keep them here and retain them. Our price point's a lot lower than private schools. We offer the same value. Wonderful professors, wonderful facilities. It just costs a lot less because we're supplemented through state funding. So there's a lot of advantages to my recruiting philosophy and how I try to bring players in. But at the same time, some of the private schools are wonderful institutions in their own right. They cost more, but they offer more in aid, and they have different resources available to them, and a lot of them have more of a winning history than we do. So those are some of the challenges I hear from recruits when I speak to players. But, I give them an opportunity to say no. I reach out, say, here's what we can offer. Here's what we're doing. I'd love to talk to you further. And some players are receptive and some aren't. Some are set on, no, I'm going to go to an SCAC school. And that's okay. I move on.
Yeah. Sometimes no is the best answer, right? Like, I hate to say it, but like sometimes I'm not wasting my time anymore. Yeah, thank you. Good luck, right? Like, I think that's real. How I know you mentioned the game against Tufts and how close you were. Like, how from the program perspective, how close do you think you are at being at a level where you're like, now we're humming, and it's structured, and you have the team not only playing but also doing all the intangible things that you need a program to do or players in a program to do to I'll just say be elite, whatever that means at an elite level. Like, how close to that image in your mind do you think you are?
Yeah, in my mind, we're almost there. We're almost there. I knew we could play with Tufts. They were the better team, but I knew we could hang in there. And my players weren't so convinced, and until we're up 1-0 with 20 minutes to go, and I could feel their energy and see their confidence, and I knew we had that capability last year, and we'll have that capability this year. We're not quite at those levels yet, but we're slowly creeping closer. And so it's an exciting time in our program. We've just got to get the players to believe and understand that they can compete at higher levels against stronger teams, and that's the goal. And the goal this year is to try to defend our championship and advance deeper into the national tournament. And I think by doing that, it helps with recruiting. Obviously, you can bring in another breed of player when you win a little bit. But we're really focused on the process every day, about trying to work hard every day and get a little bit better every day, and hopefully the results take care of themselves in a couple months.
I never had actually, that's not true. I think I've had a number of coaches I've talked to who do sports psychology. Would you say from when you started to where you are now, like there's especially for the players who maybe have been with you since their freshman year 4 years ago or 3 years ago, like do you see in them, or do you see this difference in the psychology of those student athletes? Like, would you notice the player if you compared the two? Would you be able to say, oh yeah, that kid, that mentality was from 4 years ago. This is today's mentality. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really interesting question, and we'll address that with players. In fact, when I see growth and development in the guys, I'll pull them aside and point that out. I'll say, 2 years ago, you would have had your head down on that play, kind of thing.
Yeah.
2 years ago, you didn't have a vision, you didn't have a focus, you weren't able to visualize or use imagery or settle yourself down before a game. You didn't have the skill set, but now look at what you're doing. Look at what you just did. And I think players really respond to that. Like, you know what, coach? Thanks. I think I might be seeing some growth too. But we do goal setting with the players in classroom sessions. We write purpose statements, position-specific purpose statements. We identify the strengths of all of our teammates. And we have a list of our core values. We have pillars of play, things that we look at that we're trying to execute on a daily basis. There's a very famous book called The Energy Bus that we spend some time looking at the value, the 10 values of the Energy Bus by John Gordon, which is a really fantastic team building book. We did a canoe activity on the water this spring for a blindfolded canoe activity with the guys, team building, trust building, which was a lot of fun. So again, it comes back to the comprehensiveness of for us to be better. It needs to be more than just on the field tactics. Technical improvement. It has to be more comprehensive with nutrition and sports psychology and strength and conditioning and scheduling and the organization of how we run our program, and all those things are very important to me, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction.
How much do you rely on your captains? I'm now on the psychology side and sort of making sure your program continues in this growth phase, if that's the way to describe it. Like, how important are the folks that you say you are the captain of this team? How much do you rely on them?
Yeah, there's a couple prongs to that attack. I typically let the players vote on the captains. I do reserve the right to make any changes, but I allow the team to select captains. I think that's really important. And then in the off season, my captains go through leadership training. I have an extensive curriculum in place for them that I've designed and built. I call it our captain's leadership homework. And there are assigned activities and assignments that they have to go through, and it's really just an exercise in self-reflection. What do they stand for? What do they believe in? How do they view the world? How do they view themselves? And then how can they apply that in a leadership context in terms of as it applies to our team? So I rely on my captains quite a bit. I put them through the leadership curriculum. I allow the players to select who they want to lead the team, reserving the right to make any changes if I need to. And then I pretty much communicate through the captains, and then they will communicate to the team through a couple different group chats that we have. But I try to put the onus on them in terms of helping me to keep the team organized and moving in the right direction. And if it feels a little off kilter, we meet with the captains and we talk about it and try to rewrite the ship.
That's interesting, right? Like, it's me not knowing, just not knowing anything, right? Like, I just from the outside and just sort of how I mentally would structure a team and whatnot. And I always thought the the strongest way for a program's culture to survive, grow, all of these positive things, you require the players to take ownership of that. And because you could say as much as you want, you're the all due respect, the old guy in the room, right? And they would rather listen to their peers than. And I think it's so critically important, and I always have. And it's just as you pick the wrong guy, you can totally destroy everything you've built. Like it just like that. It's so quick. All right, what game do you have? This is a loaded question, and I'm sorry. It's going to be someone's. If you don't answer correctly, it's going to be somebody's bulletin board material. What game do you have circled this season?
Well, you've got to circle all 8 of them. The non-conference games are obviously important, but they're designed to help us prepare for our conference games, which gets us to the national tournament.
Yeah.
The non-conference games, if we're successful there, if you're playing the right opponents and some tough opponents, you've got an opportunity to be seated a little bit higher in the national tournament, which is always nice. We draw. We won the MASCAC last year, and we draw Tufts, the number 2 team in the country, which was a really good challenge for us, and we were up for it, and. That may happen again this year. Who knows? They put you where they put you, and you just got to show up and prepare and play. And but our 8 conference games are certainly circled, and we're hyper focused on those, and we use our non-conference games to make adjustments and change things a little bit tactically and reevaluate players, and all with the idea of preparing for the conference games.
Yeah. Well, if it's anything, right? Like iron sharpens iron. The only way I hate this, like you never want to. You always want to go as far as you can, but invariably in a tournament, you have to Like you have to be prepared to go through toughs, right? Like or whomever it might be that's on the other end of the field, because that's the only way to get there. I would have tried to figure out the easy way, and there's no easy way.
There's 433 Division III teams. There's a couple of hundred Division II teams, and just under 200 Division I teams, and inevitably the best batch of 64 in Division III go to the tournament, and you've got to get through.
You got to play.
You got to get through the best teams to be able to play in December, and that's the name of the game, And we are happy to be part of that 64, and would love to go back and represent our university and our families, and see if we can go a little bit deeper next year.
Can I ask you the Tufts game? You said something that I thought was really interesting. That before, like you weren't sure that you were sure that you were ready to match up against Tufts. You weren't sure your players were until you were leading 1-0 with 20 minutes left, and then they sort of felt that spark. Did you do anything leading up to Tufts to sort of say, hey, like we can take Tufts, we can, and sort of beat that into their heads at all, or was there, I hate to say it, like so little time to sort of mentally prepare that you almost have to rely on them to be mentally ready?
A little bit of both. We had 4 or 5 training sessions leading up to that first round tournament game. I had obviously watched film and scouted them a little bit and came up with what I felt was a pretty good game plan in terms of what could we realistically execute based on some of the things that Tufts does. So we trained those things very hard, and we prepared and had a pretty good idea that Tufts wasn't going to change their game plan for us, and we knew that we would have to adjust a little bit to meet them where they were, which is what we did. and at halftime it's 0-0. And the gist of my halftime talk with the players was, "Do you believe? Do you now believe?"
Yeah.
And they're saying, "You better believe we believe, coach.
Yeah.
It's a 0-0 game, guys. You're there. I told you you can play. We're in this," kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we continued to stick with our game plan. The players executed what we trained all week really, really well. And it was a good fight. It was a good battle. And
Yeah.
Buffalo State went on to beat
Yeah.
Tufts the next night.
Yeah.
And they played very similarly to what we did. They just executed a little bit better, and were able to knock off a really good Tufts team. So, it was a little bit of instilling some confidence in the players,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of preparation as well.
Yeah,
A combination of both.
Yeah. That's interesting. Di Have you found by chance that so you make it to the end in your short years, right? 4 short years, you end up winning a conference, going to the NCAA's. Did you notice the volume of emails or calls to you about wanting to play for Westfield State increase at all?
When I took over the team 3.5 years ago, I received less than 5 a week. Less than 5 a week in terms of inquiries. So I'm about at right around 50 a day now.
Holy mackerel!
Yeah, it's a lot to
Yeah.
sit through. So we hold some ID camps now, and I try to respond to all of those inquiries, and I invite them to ID camps. I can't possibly watch film on
Yeah.
and see 350 players a week,
Yeah.
which is about the volume I'm getting, and that's a really good problem to have.
Yeah.
But now it's about managing that volume and trying to find a needle in a haystack. And so we invite all the players to ID camps that we hold a couple times a year, and I still go to a lot of recruiting events, and I will encourage players to attend some of those recruiting events and let them know that that's where I'll be, because there's millions of them, and there's not that many coaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a good problem to have. It's an exciting problem to have, but now it's about managing that and
Yeah.
trying to still find the players that
Yeah.
we can potentially recruit.
Can I ask you? Do you generally is your recruiting sort of area just generally Massachusetts and maybe Connecticut, or is it broader than that?
Yeah, I pretty much stick to New England. I mean, there's thousands of wonderful players here,
Yeah.
especially in Western Massachusetts where we are. It's an overlooked area, and I recruit heavily within 50 to 100 miles here of campus. I've got a couple players in Maine that we really like, a few in Connecticut that we really like that we're looking at. I do have a handful of international inquiries, but that's a much tougher sell. They're not eligible for federal aid. And give them athletic scholarship money, so they just get merit money,
Yeah.
which doesn't knock off the bottom end a whole lot.
Yeah.
We've got a couple Canadian players that we like that potentially could drive down and be a little lot less in terms of
Yeah.
back and forth to campus and visiting their families on breaks and that kind of thing. But New England is, I stick to this area, and so far it's been okay. It's working out for us.
Yeah. Like it's always like there's some. Again, just because you played them, Tufts, right? Like they have a luxury where kids from anywhere in the country it's easy for them to make a decision to go to Tufts if they have the grades, right? It just because it's such the elite academic part of it. But I'm always curious to, you're in a deep pool, right? Like you got I'd even probably argue you don't even have to necessarily leave Massachusetts if you didn't want to, because you probably have enough good players there, but anyhow.
There are a lot of good players, and some of the Tufts and the Amherst and the Williams. Those are special players. They're
Yeah,
special students. They're great students
yeah,
and they're great athletes. Um, the message to my players, though, is you're special students
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You guys are enrolled at a wonderful 4-year
yeah,
university.
yeah,
You're playing high level college soccer, which is hard to do at any division.
yeah,
Um, and you've got everything going for you. And
yeah,
and that's the language we use with our players, and
yeah,
it's a lot of encouragement and praise, and trying to build their confidence and let them know that they
yeah,
can compete on a national level,
yeah,
even though they may not see it right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't disagree with that. Uh, I just meant from the recruiting standpoint, like it's just easier for Tufts to go to California and say, "Hey, we're Tufts," or Amherst can do that, right? Like I just think again, just
Sure.
sort of the nature of the academic institution. But all right, so you've been what, a week? You've been in preseason for a week, 3 days, so 8, 9 days, something like
Yeah,
that.
we're 9 days in today.
9 days. Can I ask, what are your impressions so far? Like, what is your? I know this is like I'm dragging out with the bad questions for you. Like, what's your impression so far of your preseason, and what are you thinking?
So far, so good. Minimal injuries. We've had 2 preseason games. Both results were great. We played a couple of local schools. We went 1-1 with one school and played another local college last night. Won the game 5-0. But aside from that, saw a lot of positives, and we're able to identify some things we needed to be better at. And we open on the road at SUNY Cobleskill on Sunday. So we've got a few more days of training here. We're going to try to clean up a few things and get ourselves ready to go. But really, Paul, the biggest challenge I have is is going to be finding playing time for the depth of players that we have. We've got 20, 25 guys who could probably start for a lot of teams. Depth, and keeping them happy and finding ways to get them on the field
Yeah,
will be a challenge. It's a good problem to have, but there are probably 15 guys right now that are kind of standing out from the pack a little bit. And
yeah, yeah,
we'll kind of focus on trying to use them a little bit more here early in the season, and give the other 15 guys. We got 32 on the roster. We'll give the other 15, 17 guys an opportunity to earn more playing time. But we've got some depth, and so far we're pretty healthy. Attitude's pretty good. Culture's pretty good.
yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Ask me in 3 months.
Yeah. Oh, you're on the docket now, so of course I will. Y- you don't. Do you have a JV, like sorry, they call them developmental team now? Do you,
Yeah, no reserve team, no club
yeah.
team. I bring in the first couple years here. I brought in 40 or 45 a year, and kind of held sort of some informal tryouts, if you will. This year I had my roster set, so we brought in 32 right from day one and got to work immediately. At this point, all 32 of them are guys that I've recruited. There's no players left that I inherited. So they're all players I've brought in, and all players that I know very well, and we got to work right on day one this year. And it's been fun. It's been a good preseason.
Yeah.
Tough. It's a grind, as any team and coach will tell you, but a necessary part of being a competitive college program.
How have you call them first years? How are they adjusting to the collegiate game?
Yeah, I've got five first year players, and then I've got 8 transfers that we brought in. So half of our team are new players to our program. all of the transfers came in January. We were able to get them in January, so they trained with us all spring, which was incredibly helpful. And then the true freshmen, the first year players who arrived 9 days ago, they're doing fine. They're working hard. They're adjusting, and it is an adjustment.
Yeah.
But they've jumped right in, had feet first with their teammates. They're involved in our activities, and we work hard to make sure that they stay engaged and involved and included. And I don't believe in this stuff about freshmen grab the equipment and freshmen you eat last and freshmen sit in the back of the bus or whatever the teams do. We don't do that. Everybody participates in everything. They're a fully vested member of the team right from the get-go, and that's an important part for my philosophy.
Having freshmen eat last and all that stuff is, I think, from a bygone era. Maybe I don't think that flies anymore.
I
know I wouldn't tolerate it. That doesn't work for me. I'm eating. I'm hungry.
I don't know. I know that the back in my day it was like new guys, you grab the stuff and new guys do this, and I don't know. I try to stay away from that. And we bring them in as a fully vested member, and so far so good.
Yeah. All right, so Coach, I'm going to ask you my last question so that you can get on with your day. And it's one I've been asking everyone, and I'm now particularly interested in knowing your background and sort of the things you're doing and what you're building at Westfield State. And this doesn't apply to collegiate soccer. It could be anything, any soccer, professional, youth, doesn't matter. What do you think we are not talking about that we should be talking about in soccer?
Great question. I think there's a few things that come to mind. I think player backgrounds are important. How is a player viewing the world? What's their worldview when they come into your program? How do they see the world, and how does that worldview fit with the reality of the situation that they're now in terms of being at a new university and a new college? I think mental health is a big piece that for decades and decades and hundreds of years, for that matter, was really overlooked.
Yeah.
I think that plays a big role in the performance of athletes, and that's worth monitoring and thinking about and talking about. And I know at Westfield State, they do a really good job of addressing that, and there are a lot of resources for athletes and the general student body. And then the recovery piece, the nutrition, the recovery, the psychology makeup of what it means to be a college athlete, I think is often overlooked in terms of how do athletes take care of their bodies. And we have resources available for them, but I still find it a challenge to get players to think about recovery and how they're treating their bodies and taking care of their bodies so that they can prepare to compete at a really rigorous level. In fact, just yesterday, as part of our routine for preseason, I build in mandatory nap. There's a 3-hour chunk of time where I force the players to lay down and take a nap during the afternoon, and they look at me like I have 4 heads. But I say to them, it's really important. You've been beating your bodies up for 8-9 days. It's important that you're getting some adequate rest. This is built in there to allow your body to rest and recover. And so that recovery piece, that psychological piece, the nutrition piece, I think are all things to continue to be thinking about.
Yeah, that's actually a really good answer, because those are hard things. Yeah, and as silly as that might, how I describe it, those are not things that you snap a finger and there's like some institutional change or a change in how players are receptive to these things. Like, it takes years of constant sort of working that into the program, or how players view things and how players, like you said, treat themselves. Like, it almost has to become a cultural change. It's not a, hey, we're going to change something on an org chart and there you go. It's yeah, those are hard things. Those are very hard things. Which again, playing in the 80s, none of that, none of that, any of that was. We were doing 2-a-days. If you hurt, you just put ice, and if you had some mental things like, yeah, you just sucked it up, rubbed dirt on it, and
Sure.
nutrition, what? Like there were burgers and grilled cheese. There was nothing better to recover with than grilled cheese, right? Like so.
There is something to be said about that mindset, though. There's some grit and toughness there that we might be missing just a little bit in today's world. There was something to that grittiness and that toughness that there are some players that I think could benefit from now, because there is a little bit of hand holding that we have to do now, but finding that balance.
Well, it went from, hey, you're on your own to swung over this way, right? Like this is, you have all these resources and we're here to help you and you shouldn't be distressed and all these things. And I think we got to somehow figure out that middle ground where sometimes it's good to struggle. Lots of times it's good to struggle, not to the point where it's debilitating, but there's a lot to be said about even in soccer games, right? Like I said, iron sharpens iron. Sometimes you have to lose to win, right? Like I try to explain that to my boys. Like sometimes it's good to have a rough game because it teaches you things about yourself in those rough scenarios. I think that's with life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Can you take a punch? Can you fall down? Can you get back up?
And get back up. And not take a punch and then be down for good. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want to be that guy. But right, like there is something to be said about that. So anyhow. All right, Coach. I want to thank you for this. This is one of the more interesting discussions I've had. Really, really. I may. Well, I know where you live now, which is a bad thing, because I might have you back on in your capacity as a sports psychologist, because that's an area that really does intrigue me. But having said that, I also know where you live because we're going to talk again in 3-4 months after the season, and to get your take on that. You're in the rotation now, like I mentioned. So,
well, thank you. The work you're doing on behalf of college soccer and just soccer in general is really fantastic.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I fully expect you to go out and get every student at Westfield State to subscribe to my channel. That's it. That's the contingent for you being on next. Now. All right, Coach, I will be watching. I'm going to be tuning in to see you guys. I'm really curious. And like I said, I think you're building and growing something there that's pretty awesome to see. And again, appreciate taking the time. Best of luck to you and your men.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.